So you're hopping across the pond, you want to catch some shows on the West End, see the best of London theater. But is it the same as Broadway? Is it the same as seeing a show in your US touring house? What things should you know before seeing shows in London? Let's break it down. Hi friends, if you're new here, my name is Katharine Quinn. I talk about Broadway, lifestyle, and financial freedom. I also work on Broadway. I'm currently working on How to Dance in Ohio on Broadway. I was also on the writing team for Shucked on Broadway, and I worked on Paper Mill's Great Gatsby, which may or may not be Broadway bound. Only time will tell. I don't have any secret information, I promise. I really don't. At any rate, theater is my love, my life. I've seen over 200 individual Broadway shows, so I want to give you as many tips and tricks as humanly possible. I recently took a trip to London. I've been to London probably 5 or 6 times at this point, which is a huge gift. I've seen quite a number of shows on the West End and in London in general, because as we know, there is great theater outside of West End, the entity. I got to see a show at Donmar Warehouse for the first time, hugely recommend. I want to give you some of the tips and tricks that I wish I had known prior to seeing shows in London and things that I'm still learning. So let's break it down. Number 1. The theater district in London isn't really like the theater district the way it is in New York. It is more spread out. For instance, one of the shows that we saw on this most recent trip, my partner and I went to go see The Immersive Guys and Dolls. Total treat. It was at the Bridge Theater. It is West End. Our Airbnb was about 10 minutes away from like Soho, Covent Garden, like where most of the theaters tend to be. So I was just like, oh, 10 minutes, it's gonna be plenty of time. I think the show was at 7:30. At 7 o'clock, I was like, I'm gonna look at, the Uber, whatever, see how long it'll take. Nope. 30 minutes. We were running. It is not all centralized in London. Plan accordingly. Take a look at where those theaters are, because they are not all in one little concentrated area between, like 40th and 48th. Like there are some shows in the 50s, there are some shows that are east of Broadway, but for the most part, Broadway is all just like right there, like a 10-minute-ish walk. Not the case in London, so please be prepared. Tip number 2, a lot of the theaters are underground, which is fascinating. This is really apropos of not much other than my general interest and also just knowing that you will not have cell service most of the time. But this is so logical when I think about it, like entering down into a theater. But that just struck me. So many of the theaters we entered, and instead of going upstairs and into a grand theater that was above ground, so many of the actual theaters were underground. Mysterious and fascinating. Oh, here is something we loved in London. They are way hipper than Broadway. I think I've maybe seen this in 1 or 2 Broadway theaters, but in all of the shows that we saw in the West End, there was a scan to order at your seat, and you could order food and drinks in advance, and someone would bring you whatever you want that you ordered on your phone, and it would be ready for you at intermission, which is so practical and so smart. Also, things are overpriced, but concessions are nowhere near as price gouged as you are in the States, in New York. So New York, it's like literally M&Ms are like $20. It is bonkers. That is not the case in London, so you don't need to like get super full before a show the way that you do in New York. So that's really exciting. My next tip is, it is generally cheaper to buy tickets to London theater than it is New York theater. I've complained about this ceaselessly, but like current top ticket prices on Broadway are $500 pretty much. For multiple shows, like you can pay up to $500 for a ticket, which is bonkers. I think the average ticket price right now is about somewhere between $180 and $200 US. That is not the case in London at all. You can actually get for like 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, sit up in the rear mezz, live your life. Sunset Boulevard, we sat in the mezz, had a great experience. I think they were like 60 pounds, but it was still so much cheaper. All of it was so much cheaper than Broadway tickets. So much cheaper. So things to look forward to. Similarly, the US will gouge you on fees, online fees. There are online fees in London, but also they are not as inflated as the US prices are. In the States, a lot of the time it'll be like, okay, you want to go to the theater to save money on those fees. Like go to the box office, you'll save the money on the online fees. That's not the case in London. In London, just buy your tickets online. It's like a $3, £3 fee, but it's not like the $20 in fees that you'll pay on TodayTix or whatever platform you're using here. This is a big one. Wish we had known this. London theater is prompt. Prompt. If you're on time, you're late. Here in the States, I have held routinely for 8 to 10 minutes for every single show. And I'm just like, that's what's happening. If sitting down at 8 o'clock, expecting the curtain to go, and 8 to 10 minutes later, it's 8:12, finally the show begins. I have held for 20 or 30 minutes on Broadway, okay? Like, truly, when I saw One More Time this summer, we held for 20 minutes, okay? For the show to begin. It does not happen in London. They wait for no one. For no one. We went to go see Guys and Dolls. As I mentioned, the Bridge Theater was further than we expected. We arrived at 8 o'clock or at 7 o'clock, I can't remember what the show time was. Show had started. It was immersive, so we walked right on through the stage into our seats. This seems like a total duh, maybe. The stalls are the orchestra. It just means the ground floor seats. Cool. You maybe knew that already. On Broadway, we have Playhouse. They are for free. They don't always have associate bios, but they should. For more thoughts on that, visit all my other videos where I inappropriately squeeze in the fact that associates should receive more credit on Broadway. The Next Normal at Donmar Warehouse was not a West End production. It's like pre-West End. Donmar is a very well established, but this is also not an uncommon situation. This is indicative of a program that you could purchase in London. We're not just giving away our bios and headshots and musical numbers for free. But if you buy this, you do get like all the pretty, we have some gorgeous like rehearsal photos, got very long bios. It's a little more comprehensive. Don't worry, it's not all rotten in London. Your ticket is incredibly affordable. And also, there's ice cream at intermission. I have no idea why this is a thing. Some Brit, tell me the history of this, or just tell me why this is a thing. I think it is very charming. You can get ice cream at intermission. I'm lactose intolerant. I'm not a huge ice cream queen, but I still find it charming. One of my friends, Ashley, when she goes to London, she will literally be like, the show, 5 stars. Ice cream, 3 stars, and tell you like what flavor she got. I love it. The last thing that I'm just gonna like generally say, which is not totally true. I don't know if it's an adage, but there is sort of like a commonly held belief that the Brits do plays better and that the New Yorkers do musicals better. Overall, I agree. There are some exceptions, especially if there's some good drama in the musical. I think the Brits can do exceptionally well. And listen, Operation Mincemeat, hilarious, kitschy, funny. If you want my review of that, I think it's gonna be up over on this side. It's just a totally different flavor. I have not yet seen a classic American musical theater piece that I loved in London, except for Follies. That's the only one. Sometimes the cadence of speech is very weird, like the accent will be right, but you know how there's like sort of a rhythm to like old school musical theater, or like the what do you want, she? Like, and it just like doesn't always translate. That's it. They do freaking fantastic work. I love seeing shows on the West End. They can also afford to experiment a lot more. It is much cheaper to produce shows on the West End, for better or for worse. The for better part is you get cheaper tickets, there can be more experimentation. The for worse part is actors are paid horribly on the West End, and many of them have to have like additional jobs. It is not a Broadway minimum $2,500 a week situation across the pond. But the work is phenomenal. The performers are exceptional. I love, 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 love seeing shows in London. Highly recommend it. If you are going to see a show in the West End, tell me what you're seeing. I recently saw Next Normal, not West End, Operation Mincemeat, Immersive Guys and Dolls, and Sunset Boulevard. I didn't count it as classic American musical theater, okay, but that production is one of my favorite productions of any show I've ever seen in my life, and I don't even care about Sunset Boulevard. I still don't care about Sunset Boulevard, but that production. If you want to see my review of that, click right up here. That's it. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for being a part of this community. If you enjoyed this video, please consider just tapping that little, shuffle off to Buffalo on that like button. Click the subscribe button. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram at It's Katharine Quinn. If there's something you want to see from me, if you have a question about London theater, if you have a question about theater in general, leave a comment. Thank you so much for joining me. I post new videos every single week, so if you didn't subscribe before it, now's your opportunity. Okay, great. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.